My name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info. This is Nigeria Info.
I'm Speaker, Fellow, all of them join, and we are not going to forget Ochanyawa of Nigeria Info. Baba Chelsea, I hope you've heard it consistently for 3 days. The name has been attached. And yes, for those asking, we have Dr. Majid Dahiru in the studio, comfortably seated. He's always here on time, I promise you. The day he doesn't show up, but when he shows up big. Dr. Majid, you're welcome. Delighted to have you join us as usual. I know you had a bit of a car problem, like you mentioned, but you still made it here.
Somehow.
Sorry about that.
No problem at all. Thank you. Good afternoon to our listeners too.
Good afternoon. Talkback, good to know you've tuned in and ready to go already. I says, yes, he's around, Dr. Majid. Yes, he is. Welcome, Ochanyawa, says Charles. Thank you very, very much. And yes, I've been told we'll be live on Facebook and YouTube, so you can go check it out at Nigeria Info ABJ on YouTube and at Nigeria Info ABJ on Facebook as we stream live the conversation we're having in the studio today. Dr. Majida, I'm sure we had this conversation about streaming live or not, the proceeding of the tribunal. It feels like the ruling party, the president-elect and his deputies seem not to be too comfortable with the idea of a live broadcast of the election petition proceeding. It's something that the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party called for. And it feels like Labour Party is favorably disposed to that. Also, we've had some senior lawyers say it wouldn't be a bad idea. And even taking our minds back to a legislation that was pushed at one point by a House of Rep member, I recall, who was trying to call for this. But Tinubu, Shettima, they're completely opposed to the idea. And you need all parties involved to give this one a shot, yeah?
Sometimes you begin to wonder how politicians and political parties respond to issues that would otherwise would have enhanced their public perception ratings positively. How do I mean? In as much as a case is in court, in a properly constituted court, such as the case before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, don't also forget that this same case is also in the court of public opinion. People are having conversations around the issues emanating from the court. And whether you like it or not, justice must not just be done, but must be seen to have been done by all parties. Now, when a party in a matter before a court is now opposing the transparent proceedings in court for the viewing public, you begin to question, is there anything they have that they are hiding? So, I don't know, sometimes these people themselves bring certain things that constitute PR disaster upon themselves. What is the big deal in transmitting or broadcasting live what was happening in court? Now, since you are opposing this, you are now giving life to the speculation out there that probably you may have done certain things during the election to get you victory. I mean, sometimes you begin to wonder why we do certain things that by the end of the day brings more perception baggages to us. There's no big deal in broadcasting it live. Absolutely not.
I mean, what's there to lose, you would ask?
There is nothing. So, by the time you are opposing this, you are giving the impression out to millions of Nigerians that indeed you are against a transparent court proceeding that would have enlightened Nigerians about how the court actually reached its own conclusion and ruling. Because now that you have opposed this, you have left room for speculations, all manner of speculations that will continue to delegitimize your otherwise legitimate mandate. I am one of those who believe that the elections conducted, not without flaws anyway, but was a reflection of some certain realities, and that Bola Tinubu is the president-elect. But when you begin to put up such objections to simple issues as let us bring this thing live so that people can learn what has happened. People can know what was done during the trial that resulted into, whatever judgment the court is going to actually make on this matter. Why are you opposing it? Why are you the one opposing it? So it's very suspicious. And they're not doing themselves any good by opposing this simple procedure. It's very simple. If there's one case that needs to bring life to all Nigerians to see, it is this case, especially this particular case. Some people will see and make, their own judgment for themselves to say, look,
and given the fact that a lot of people are saying we're waiting for the judiciary to do the right thing, you would want the process to be as glaring.
There's nothing to hide. There is no secret about a petition, election petition matters. There's nothing to it. So I'm a bit surprised that the strategist for the president-elect and his party do not seem to understand that what they've just done is to give, some credence to certain impressions out there that they have been beneficiaries of a flawed process, and so they are relying on the judiciary to rubber stamp that flawed process with judicial authority. Otherwise, why will you oppose people seeing live what's happening in court? What is the... You can actually say they should do a secret trial then and shut everybody out who is not a party to the case.
Because briefs are going to come indefinitely, minute by minute for the journalists who are there.
So what is the difference? So this, for me, this is like an own goal by the APC and the president-elect. It's an own goal. This is an unnecessary objection, very unnecessary. And somehow I had silently prayed that this will not also come up, so I would not have this kind of conversation we're having today. I'm one of those who believe that we should be setting an agenda for the incoming administration. But this that they have done today is such that they are giving people the impression that they have something to hide. And for me, what do you really have to hide? It's going to be an open trial in any case. Like you rightly pointed out, journalists will be there, correspondents will be there to report by the minute what's happening in court. But when you beam it live, people sit down in the comfort of their homes. They listen to all presentations before the justices of the appeal court and the Supreme Court, and they make their own conclusions. And everybody would have seen the reason and the basis upon which certain judgments were made. It lays to rest certain, misconceptions out there, because this election was tightly contested. I don't really blame people who think or who dispute the outcome. It was tightly contested. So everybody thought, well, I should have won. Certain things have been done well and all of that. So with this now, it compounds the issue. So for people like us, who didn't throw the part of completely condemning the election, this puts us in a very difficult situation. Because why are you opposing?
Why are you opposing?
What is there to oppose? What is really there to oppose? What is the big deal?
According to report, the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima urged the Presidential Election Petition Court to dismiss the application by Atiku Abubakar and the PDP for a live broadcast of proceeding. They argued that the relief sought by the applicant are not such that a court should grant. With much respect to the petitioners, the motion is an abuse of the proceeding of the Honorable Court, it states. Besides describing the application as frivolous, they say the court is not a soapbox, a stadium, or a theater where the public should be entertained. And through their team of lawyers, led by Chivoli Olanikpekun, they wondered why a petitioner would file an application to distract the court and waste its precious time. They stated in the counter affidavit that the application relates to policy formulation of the court, which is outside of the PEPC's jurisdiction as constituted. And the application also touches on the powers and jurisdiction invested in the president of the Court of Appeal by the Constitution, over which this honorable court, as presently constituted, cannot entertain. And they say it also touches on administrative function, which are exclusively reserved for the president of the Court of Appeal, that the application is aimed at dissipating the precious judicial time of the Honorable Court and does not have any bearing on the petition filed by the petitioner to the Honorable Court. So they're saying disregard it.
Honestly.
But then if you read the room, the call is we want to see a live proceeding of what is going on.
Look, like I said, this is an own goal on the part of the APC and the president-elect's legal team. A very disastrous own goal. What is there to oppose? First and foremost, every of the proceedings will be reported by journalists in real time. Especially now that you have online media all over the places. I mean, people will be reporting as the judge is making pronouncement, as the lawyers are making the argument, it will be reported almost in real time. So what is now the difference between having a camera to just beam it live? So people will watch and see and probably learn why those who they thought won the election didn't win, And why those that INEC, for example, have affirmed to have won the election, which is in this case in the interest of the winners, the APC, and the candidate of the APC, the president-elect. So it is in their interest, more than any other person's interest, for these proceedings to be being left to the Nigerian people. I had thought that they would have been the least of all the parties to have rejected this, if they are confident of their victory. The court cannot be a soapbox or cannot be a place for theatrics. No, it is a place for a serious business.
Yeah.
It is that serious business that Nigerians wants to see the seriousness of the business. And it would have been very, very okay for all of us so that we don't have any speculations about what happened, what didn't happen in the court, which might now be used to continuously create crises and controversies after even the elections have been won and lost. So I don't know why they are doing this, but in any case, as long as they will not stop the press from covering the proceedings, well, Nigeria can always make do with that. But again, coming out to say you don't want live coverage speaks to certain issues. It means you have something to hide, which ordinarily you shouldn't have anything to hide. This is a public interest matter. An election petition case is a national
Maybe it just sounds off because it's a different request. We've not had this sort of demand and perhaps maybe the pressure you will put. I'm trying to understand from their perspective why it shouldn't
this
even
election
come.
is one of Nigeria's most consequential. It's an election like no other before it. So having it beamed live to me would have laid to rest all of the speculation. Sometimes you see a lot of conspiracy theories about this election. You start wondering, are you still living in this same Nigeria where these things were said to have happened? The live proceedings would have put all of that to rest. So that if at the end of the day, for example, the judiciary upholds the conduct of INEC and upholds the winners as declared by INEC, in this case the president-elect, people would have seen clearly that, okay, the arguments that were tendered, that were made on behalf of each of the parties, okay, you have an understanding of why the justices arrived at this case. And it will help deepen our electoral jurisprudence. And it will also help Nigerians generally to understand how the current Electoral Act, the legal framework governing our electoral process now, actually works and the extent to which it can work. These are the issues. You leave no speculation, you leave no room for speculation. Look, I don't want the kind of crisis we are facing after the election to be faced after even the justice of the Supreme Court have pronounced their ruling. No, it's something that is going to weigh us out, really. So allow people to see for themselves what has happened in the court. There is no harm in it. There is nothing wrong with it.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. But just before we move to the next story, is it something that the court can decide on its own, or you need all parties in agreement for this to happen? Or the court can decide, you know what, maybe just for that sake, and also because there's also that perception about the judiciary, the part of a lot of Nigerians, to say we want people to follow the procedure from a particular period of it.
Well, I don't know how it works, really, particularly as pertains issues like this are not really part of the court issue before the court. But you raised an important point in your follow-up question now. That is the judiciary having the need themselves to come clean before the Nigerian people because of the negative perception that the judiciary has gotten for itself recently with some very controversial judgments. I think it's also in the interest of the judiciary to be seen doing justice. And so, if we are the justices of the appeal court, I will rule in favor of a live proceeding so that nobody comes to me and say, look, this judgment that the appeal court or the Supreme Court gave us because somebody came in and whispered to the justices and did something and somebody winked at them. A lot of issues. So look at it saves them, a lot of image problem going forward. So for me, what we need most now in the judicial education before our Lord Justices is utmost transparency, openness, so that justice at the end of the day will not just be done, but to be seen by all to have been done. It's a simple process. It's a simple principle in law that is justice being seen to have been done. And the best way for us to see it is when we sit down in our living rooms and watch the proceedings live and see arguments being made, being canvassed. Because there are lots of misinterpretations and misrepresentations about some sections of the law that all parties are laying claim to now.
Yeah.
So we need to see these things argued out so that you can understand the logic, the common sense behind some of the decisions that were taken there. So that we will now use that to prepare for the next round of election without living under the impression that what is wrong is right. What is permissible, what is not permissible under the law is permissible under the law. We need to know the extent of the Electoral Act, to know, the bounds and all of that, so that people can make informed decisions for themselves. And the best way to do this is to be transparent as possible. And I see no harm. I see no harm in it. It is in the interest of everybody, particularly the winners. So that when they are declared in the event that they are
the judiciary
affirms their victory, people would have seen the process leading to that affirmation. They too can have their arrest.
Everybody can just rest.
But now, since they shouldn't be like we have opened another Pandora's box, people will now start insinuating, why are you hiding from the cameras?
All right, we'll go on a very quick commercial break, and we'll be back some more. Don't forget, check us out on YouTube and Facebook at Nigeria Info ABJ.
There's a place where you can get it all trending.
People are dropping on their vehicle, are running, leaving their vehicle.
A place where you can air your views.
I want to report the situation.
Only on your #1 station for talk.
This is not the way. We cannot continue like this.
95.1 Nigeria Info. Abuja. Let's talk.
Sincerely, I don't want to wait till I graduate from this school before I think of what to do with my life.
Exactly. I am going to seriously work on my music skills. Let me use my talent well, I beg.
I would like to be a radio presenter, but I don't know how to go about it.
But why is Simi so quiet today?
Sorry, ladies. I'm taking this interesting course on how to become a professional scriptwriter. You too can also learn how to become a radio presenter on Wazobia Academy.
Wazobia Academy?
Yes, Wazobia Academy provides accessible and affordable online training in filmmaking, music business, fashion, radio hosting, and lots more.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
Arch Noel says he's there also. Peter Emmanuel, we see you. Henry Okpanachi says I inspire him. Hopes to meet you one day also. I hope so too. And Mahmoud Mohammed came. Good afternoon. It seemed like, okay, we are not at that story yet. So this is you jumping ahead of yourself. Dr. Majid, you make my day every Wednesday. Thank you, says Obin Duka. Sam 007. Oga Majid, I hello. See this fine African man. Okay. Godwin, lawyers go into courtrooms with their cell phones. They video almost everything that is happening. So Shettima and Mr. Tinubu should know that the proceeding is close to a live coverage. And Oludade Abiodun says, good afternoon, Kim and our guest. Live telecast or not, Tinubu actually won. I just want to advise people not to heat up the polity. Ayewo says, no need of a live coverage. If it goes live, more tension will rise again. Look at what Labour Party versus Labour Party were doing in court today. Henry Ajerebe says, objecting to live broadcast of the presidential election by the APC and its presidential and vice presidential election is like saying no to transparency. And Badmus Sumbo says it's only doctors' analysis in Nigeria Info. The only doctor analyst in Nigeria Info. Greetings, says Badmus. Aliu Garikida, good afternoon, Dr. Majid. Well done, sir. Winner Ethelbert says, was Ekweremadu's case not transmitted live? Was that a theatrical show or joke to people? God help us in the hands of these politicians who we call leaders. And Sahid Gidado is watching us live from Finland. Thank you so much for always joining our program from the diaspora, Sahid. I will get to your comments in a bit. But let's quickly touch on what some of the issues and development around the petition tribunal today. Like a comment on YouTube talked about the Labour Party saga. Lamidi Apapa, factional leader of the Labour Party, was taken into protective custody today after he was mobbed by party supporters in court. Upon his arrival at the presidential election petition court, Apapa confronted Akin Osuntokun, the Director General of Peter Obi's Presidential Campaign Council, over the seating arrangement. The situation was brought under control after the intervention of Josephine Ekperobe, Secretary of the Presidential Election Petition Court. However, things became heated again after the court adjourned the proceeding to a later date. The factional leader had moved to address journalists when he was attacked. chant of Ole, which translates to thief in Yoruba, rent the air as Apapa was dragged and pushed out of court. At some point, someone in the crowd removed his cap and fled. Shielded by police officers, Apapa struggled to get to his car, but the crowd kept trailing him, and police officers within the premises eventually had to take him away for his safety. I mean, there's just a lot of picture to show how he was rough-handled by party supporters in court. And Apapa has been one person who's been consistently in our faces and in the news. It shows, the factional element of the PDP and of the Labour Party, I beg your pardon. And there are some people, strong critics, believe that perhaps he's a mole. There's always that narrative of there's a mole. We heard it with PDP and Shettima. You always hear that there's a mole somewhere, even though it's the party disintegrating due to poor, perhaps, organizational management or difference of interest or alignment with other parties at the end of the day. But it shows that this is serious. And I know we've talked about this before, Dr. Majid, but, seeing how it is building and seeing the fact that we still have two groups parading themselves in terms of leadership, how is it that this has not been resolved just yet? I know it's still in court, but one would hope that, they get closure to this so that the party can be a bit more focused.
I think your last line speaks to the issue at stake. It's about distraction for the Labour Party, really. Lamidi Apapa and his group are laying claim to the leadership of the party, while Abure is also standing his ground and remains the valid chairman of the party. Both of them have judgments from different courts to support their own position. So ordinarily, it is until the Supreme Court rules on this matter that we will now know who really is the chairman between Lamidi Apapa and Julius Abure. But one thing is sure, Julius Abure had been the chairman who presided over the elections for the Labour Party. Abure was party to those who filed cases in court on behalf of the Labour Party as the chairman, alongside the candidates.
Yeah.
And so Abure has, part of the presidential bid of Mr. Peter Obi, who is the candidate of the party. And so they started these court cases together.
Yeah.
Now, if for any reason Lamidi Apapa somehow stumbled on a judgment that now made him the chairman, while the other man is still insisting he remains the chairman, some they are parading judgment from FCT and from Benin, and, it's been back and forth. Although that's one of the issues the judiciary too needs to look into. But, it is what it is. They all have one court judgment or the other, backing their own leadership of the party. One would have expected that Lamidi Apapa should have avoided the premises of the presidential election petition tribunal because it is still Julius Abure's forte for now. Especially when there are insinuations that Lamidi Apapa's faction intends, in the shortest possible time, to withdraw from that case on behalf of the Labour Party and probably declare support for the president-elect. There are insinuations like this. And when you listen to somebody like the former spokesperson of the Abure-led NWC, what's his name again? Arabambi, a veteran politician and a veteran Labour figure too, who was quite, very active in the beginning of this whole Obi for president journey. I don't know what happened. He has pitched his tent now with the Lamidi Apapa faction, and he seems to be, the most vocal from that side of the divide. He speaks to ethnic tension in the party along Yoruba. The war over between, elements from these ethnics appear to also be having impact on, or rather inside the Labour Party itself. And you see a situation where the president-elect is from the southwest. He shares the same ethnicity with the factional leader or factional chairman of Labour Party. And Rabambi, one of his interviews, said Labour Party is not Abga. He accused both Peter Obi and, of ethnic domination of the party. He made a lot of, whatever.
Arabambi or Apapa?
Arabambi, upon behalf of the Apapa faction. So what that tells you is, somehow, I think these ones are beginning to see that, look, our own has one president.
Might as well.
So what we are trying to do this to make sure that this does not rubbish. This is the thing of ethnicity and tribalism in Nigerian politics, as I've always talked about. It is part of the issue rearing its ugly head. And so the people from this other side think that they are even being sponsored actively from this other side to cause all of this because he knows that those that are in court are people who
or perhaps
want.
try to grant an interview.
In fact, going there was, to me, even though we condemn, again, let us put it on record, all forms of unruly behavior must be condemned. Harassment of people, removing of his cap, shoving him is condemnable and does not speak to the civilization, the civility in us as human beings. It's condemnable. But I'm just saying, look, he shouldn't have gone there. Because I know that from their utterances, they seem to have some level of sympathy for the president-elect. And they have a right to that. I mean, they can say, we think he won. To them, they actually think that he won and that there's no need for all of this. They've made such, insinuations. And there are grapevine informations that, look, there is a possibility that once they become the full, unchallenged leaders of the Labour Party, they might do what they can do to actually sabotage the ongoing court cases. This is something that a lot of speculations out there are rife about. So, for me, going to a court premises where you know that the people that are here are those who are very serious, who don't believe that Obi won the election, and they're in court to retrieve what they describe as their stolen mandate, it could be provocative. But again, no matter how provoked you are supposed to respond in a civil manner. You're not supposed to respond
with that level of aggression or assault.
Aggression. No. That is not justifiable. But again, I hope this is not a deliberate ploy to provoke this kind of reaction, so that they have a basis now to make a pronouncement that the Labour Party is withdrawing from the presidential.
That can happen.
Yes, it can, but then it doesn't derail the case, because a candidate has a right to actually seek redress in court, even if the party is not interested. It happened in 2007 when President Muhammadu Buhari, then General Muhammadu Buhari, ran on the platform of the ANPP, and when he lost, he decided to go to court. The ANPP as a party then refused to go to court because they were interested in government of national unit. So Buhari went to court as an individual.
Okay.
Yes, so it can happen. It doesn't derail, it doesn't take from anything, but the only thing is, it simply denies you some level of institutional support. Yeah, but otherwise, it does not really affect anything if you have your evidence intact. The only thing is, the witnesses you would have drawn from the party may not necessarily turn up. But even in this case, I think that Peter Obi himself is like the movement that the Labour Party is riding on. So whatever structures or individuals they have by way of support.
But beyond the movement, you would expect that the political party would have a solid base that it works with.
Yes,
seeing that for now, you have to operate from that.
For the purpose of the presidential election, the obedient people, those who supported Obi as an individual, kind of took over the structures. They became party agents across board.
But are they party members? Card-carrying
you don't
party
have to
member?
Be a
You don't have to
member.
be.
No,
okay.
You're just a witness. If you're an agent and your name was submitted as an agent, for example, you have the right to come and stand as a witness in court to say, in my polling unit, for example, what was declared at the polling unit does not tally with what was declared at the collation center.
Okay.
And this is my evidence. So that's not a problem. So even if they declare that they are withdrawing from the petition, it won't really affect the case in court. But the only thing is, it continues to provide that basis for distraction. It's like trying to just rubbish what these other people are doing in court. It has its own political impact, not necessarily legal impact. But all the same, I would have expected that all of these problems would have been nipped in the bud, really. I also observed that the Labour Party, after the election, should have expected this to happen. Because for the kind of showing they put up, the kind of strength they displayed, I mean, for a party that was almost irrelevant in our political exercise, so come into an election and take 12 states, including the FCT and Lagos. And don't forget that the Labour Party won in Lagos State, the home state of the president-elect.
Yeah.
So it was such a massive outing, and they should have expected that the establishment would not sit idly by and allow them to just
coast. Yeah.
Yeah. So they should have prepared and made sure that there are safeguards against some of these issues. But that may not have been the case. But it's okay. What is left now is for them to manage the situation, make sure they have their acts intact. Maybe for me, they should rally around the Abuja people. That's for those who are really of the obedient women within the party. Rally around the Abuja as much as you can, as they are doing anyway, and see that they have enough evidence in court to affirm their leadership going forward. And also want to try to be fair in matters like this, so that it doesn't look like they are doing the bidding of any of the factions or those that are perpetuating them from behind. So this is real establishment politics at its worst happening in Nigeria and happening with the Labour Party. But again, we watch as things unfold, and we continue to actually comment on the developing stories.
All right, and talking about things unfolding, just before we move to the next story, Tinubu Kwankwaso meet in Paris, and Kwankwaso's party, NNPP, is not one of those very prominent parties in court at the moment in terms of the presidential election petition, at all. And the governorship level, yes, we know what's going on, because they just have a hold of one state that they're really much interested in. But it would also be interesting to see if some sort of alignment or realignment can happen between the leader of the party, Kwankwaso himself. President-elect Bola Tinubu met with the presidential candidate of the new Nigerian People's Party, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, for talks, and was gathered at Atiku and Kwankwaso met in Paris, the capital of France, on Monday. At least we know where he is in Europe.
Courtesy of this story.
He's in France. And recall that at the presidential election, Kwankwaso, the NNPP presidential candidate, won only in Kano, and the president-elect and his guests were reported to have resolved to hold subsequent meetings as they could not conclude on the day that they met. And it's interesting to know what it will be. Jibril was the one who brokered the Tinubu Kwankwaso meeting in France, and that's Abdul Mumin Jibril was said to be at the center of it all. He's from Kano State.
He's from Kano.
He's a member of the NNPP.
Yes. And he was a member of the APC.
He was then he moved to the NNPP.
PDP. He was on the Kwankwaso faction, and even the PDP, they moved together to APC. But when Kwankwaso and Ganduje fell out, he remained Ganduje. Somehow he also fell out with Ganduje later and now joined Kwankwaso in NNPP. And today he's now trying to reconnect Kwankwaso.
With his root.
Yes, with his roots. With the president-elect and the candidate of the APC in the last presidential election. Well, it's not a surprising thing. First and foremost, it is always very good for president-elects to reach out to their opponents and rivals. And I've advocated for that severally. That he should reach out to
government of national unity kind of arrangement.
It's imperative at this time, really. It is. I know why you see the issues in the National Assembly. There's a lot of care to make sure that there's balancing, particularly religious balancing in the leadership of the National Assembly, so as not to create further impressions of exclusion or feelings of marginalization. So it's a good thing that he's meeting with Kwankwaso. I also wanted him to meet, even much earlier than now, with Peter Obi, with Atiku, with everybody you need to meet. And these meetings are not prejudicial to what the case is in court. No. It's to have a common ground for governance, a common ground for the Nigeria First agenda.
Yeah.
Simple. Certain issues will be resolved. For example, I thought that since he has emerged as president, he will look into some of the policy plans of some of his opponents and say, look, I think I can borrow this from you. I think I can borrow this idea. Just try and come with an agenda that seems to satisfy all sides, particularly since they are also all working towards a better Nigeria. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And it also helped douse tension very much. It will help douse tension.
Okay.
But when the followers see their leaders dining and whining, it douses tension. For the purpose of good governance anyway, not for the purpose of shared national cake. We must always put that caveat. Now, but as far as this case is concerned, this meeting with Kwankwaso in France is hardly a surprise. I'll tell you this today. Kwankwaso's presence in the presidential race was to the ultimate benefit of Ahmed Bola Tinubu of the APC. In fact, it was even deliberately so.
Really?
Yes. The governor of Rivers State, who was determined by all means possible to make sure that Atiku does not win this election, in whatever way you want to look at it, for reasons that are both personal and collective. Personal in the sense that since he has become enemies with Atiku, he has exchanged a lot of words with the party chairman the party chairman of PDP, Senator Yocha Ayu.
Yeah.
So normally we know that Nigeria's politics is a zero-sum game where the winners take all. And in fact, the losers stands to be punished severely too. So it was like, for my own survival, Atiku must not win. Atiku's victory was like a nightmare to Kwankwaso. To
people like Wike.
It was like a nightmare. It was like he was sleeping and seeing the possibility, and he worked extra hard. So one of the things he did was to prevail on Kwankwaso to remain in the race by all means possible.
We know that how? There was at any point where they had the meeting, or perhaps the politicians will not come out in broad daylight and
fine.
make you understand.
So as I'm talking about it now, anybody who has a contrary opinion can come out and debunk it.
Okay.
No, he prevailed on him, the discourse, and said, look, it is in the interest of all of us, because apparently Kwankwaso also didn't want to see an Atiku presidency. Because there was a time that there was pressure on Kwankwaso to step down for Atiku. A lot of northern leaders went to Kwankwaso to say, step down for him. And so to counter that move, he was encouraged with a lot of logistical support to remain in the race. Because if Atiku, had prevailed upon Kwankwaso to step down from the race, within that announcing who is stepping down for, Kano would have gone the way of Atiku. Most like, if you know how Kano people vote, it would have gone the way of Atiku. But the only alternative to Atiku would have been the same Kwankwaso, who is like a political demigod in Kano, somebody who is highly adored, and before you saw the results of the elections. So for that to be the case, for him to remain in the race and deny Atiku that critical vote in Kano, a lot of support, logistical support, was given to him by Wike. And so he remained in the race. And he played in favor of Asiwaju, because if Kano had gone the way of Atiku, it would have raised Atiku's votes. Because, of course, Asiwaju didn't win Kano. He only managed to get some good votes with the efforts of Ganduje and his political family. So, in essence, he played a very critical role to the emergence of Tinubu. And Tinubu is aware of all of these arrangements. So what you see them doing in France, and the follow-up meeting that will likely happen, is to not sit down and share the spoils of war, as is the case with establishment politics in Nigeria, positions and other things. Now, the problem for Asiwaju will now be, yes, in as much as his presence in the race denied Atiku, your close rival in the north, of this chunk of votes, Ganduje himself was pivotal to your election at the primaries level, and the vote you got in Kano, both place to second place, was also very, very critical, because without the vote from Kano and some other northwestern states, I doubt if Asiwaju would have president-elect today. So how do you manage two enemies that work for you directly and indirectly? That is the challenge before them. And that's why I also heard that he's trying to reconcile both parties. But knowing the history of Kano, it has become clear that the trio of Kwankwaso, Ganduje, and Ibrahim Shekarau, from all former governors of Kano, they do not seem to be able to sit in the same room for a very long time without walking out of the door, through the window, or through the kitchen. So it's difficult to see how you can bring two enemies, mortal enemies, and bring them in as allies under you. So that will take a lot of...
Mortal enemies, politically. Because these people still hobnob and wine together.
No, we are speaking in terms of the politics of Kano, really. I mean, their enmity runs deep, at least as of today. So I don't know how he's going to manage. It will take a lot of political ingenuity, like a magic wand, to make that possible. Because the moment he has met with Kwankwaso, be rest assured that somebody's jittery on the other side, saying, wait a minute, what's happening? So it's a tricky situation for him, so that he doesn't lose one in search of another ally in Kano. So, well, it's part of the game. There's something surprising about it. And the only thing we'll just caution the establishment is, let all of these meetings be in the interest of good governance, in their own interest, because Nigeria cannot endure another 4 years of low cost. No, it's not possible. Nigerians cannot take it anymore. We don't have the capacity anymore to take it.
But you think things are just going to magically change on their own?
There should be a deliberate move on the part of the establishment.
Okay.
To make that change possible now. The last election was between the establishment and the anti-establishment. And for the first time in the history of Nigeria, the anti-establishment came close to winning. They came close to winning. It has happened before. Even in 2015, it was a faction of the establishment fighting another faction of the establishment. That is the case between President Muhammadu Buhari and Goodluck Jonathan. The establishment broke into two and lined up behind these two people. And then it wasn't really about the people per se, but people chose between the two and said, okay, we prefer this other one. While some people also chose the other. So it was a contest within the establishment. But this 2023 election was a contest between the establishment and the anti-establishment. Because 24 years after transition from military to civil rule in Nigeria, our democracy may still be failing, may still not be fully developed, but it is a grown young adult, 24 years old adult. So it is mature, yet still developing. Maybe it has not really reached its full potentials, but it is 24 years old. So people that were born in 1999 are 24 this year. They are young men and women. They want something different. They are no longer part of this old order. They didn't benefit from it. The national cake are so thinned out that it's not even getting to them anymore. My generation was lucky. We participated in the establishment sharing of national cake while we are facing the consequences now. But for these ones, they didn't participate. They were not part of it. So they don't understand it when you say somebody is sharing money to win elections. And they are growing in number. We are 200 million people today. And this will form the bulk of that population.
Yeah.
So any further...
The dynamics of things have changed significantly.
So that we don't have a situation where our democracy will fail prematurely in between election cycles. The establishment, the president-elect, as the main man today, is an established politician. I know him to be a man of deep mind, fertile mind, if you like. Yes, age may have become a little bit of an issue, but you can't take away the fact that, one, he was a Democrat. He was a brilliant man, even as governor, we saw it. I believe he has what it takes, in spite of some of the defects or shortcomings we might observe about him. I believe that Asiwaju has what it takes. If he takes that decision to commit class suicide in order to self-preserve his own class,
based on his antecedents,
he can do it. But has he taken that decision? Is it what he wants to do? And I'm saying it has to be what he wants to do. He's a brilliant person. Give it to him. He can do it if he decides.
But isn't the national level a different playing ground altogether compared to how you can manage things in Lagos?
He needs to take a decision to do the right thing now. Because what he did in Lagos, he could have done it better, but it wasn't done better. But we know he has the capacity of doing it far better than it is in Lagos because he has the fertility of mind. Sometimes when he communicates in a way that people don't seem to understand what he's saying, for those of us who know him before, I can easily tell what he was trying to say that probably he didn't say well. And it comes from a very deep and fertile mind. Some of the things he's trying to say, I know this. So I'm saying all he needs to do then is to take that decision. It's like, I want to fix Nigeria. I don't want to make money. I don't want to make friends. I don't want to make billionaires out of cronies.
What other money does he want to make? He's an extremely wealthy man, well established.
So I expect you to take that decision. To say, look, this country has been kind to me. At my age, I've been elected president. So I want to take a decision to prove those who voted against me wrong by doing the right thing from the first day in office. So I hope that in addition to this need to, reward support, it should be within the confines and framework of good governance so that Nigeria does not fall off the edge. Look, the situation is red as we speak. It's red. Yes, I'm sure you're hearing of your debt profile and the suggestion to restructure some of these debts because of the sustainability issues arising from acute shortage of revenue. So these are issues that are fundamental to our existence, economically, security-wise, and in terms of national development. So I expect him to take that decision because what happened in the last election, that's why the shortcomings we observed in that election. I am one of those who celebrated the positives. It is not an easy task for a party like Labour to clinch 12 states, including Lagos and Abuja. It's not an easy task. So I know that it took the resilience of Nigerian people who desperately wanted to see change to annul some of the defects of INEC's shenanigans to pull through and come up with such number of votes. Those Nigerians are still alive and are willing to do more. So all that it will take to aggravate that anger in them is to underperform from day one. And if there are improvements in less than a year, I cannot guarantee you that all will be well. So this is like a warning. We'll come
but then who rates performance? Who are the point measures to say, okay, this is good enough? Because some people say critics of the government will never see anything good.
No, it's not true. If there is a country that the people are very easy to please and satisfy, it is Nigeria. Just do a little. Nigerians will sing your praises beyond even what you've done. Our current president enjoyed honeymoon for about 4 years. There's nothing you will say that his supporters will not tell you that he's doing right. They will tell you he's doing well. He was so loved and adored that when he jacked up price of petroleum products from 87 naira to 145, he was applauded. People said this is the right thing to do. Yes. NLC called strike, it failed. Nobody complied. TUC refused to comply. Because they felt this is Muhammad Buhari doing the right thing.
Nigerians said give him benefit of doubt.
Yes.
We believe he's capable of changing.
It's not 19 again. Because they felt that it was not him that was the problem, it was people around him. They made all sorts of excuses for him. Yes. Nigerians are like that. They did something for Jonathan. They did for Obasanjo. I am saying, how do you know things have improved? If I'm in my house and the power supply to my house improves from 2 hours a day to 6 hours a day, that's an improvement. If I come out of my house and discover that security has improved around me, cases of burglary, robbery, all of that has reduced. If I walk the streets of Abuja, where I live, and I see that the policemen that are now mounting roadblocks around the streets are looking very healthy because they've increased their pay, they are using better vehicles, better security gadgets, and they no longer ask for bribes because they are now decently taken care of. I would know that things have improved. You don't even need an advert to tell me that. You don't need a TV ad or any PR stunt for me to do that. When I go to public schools and see that, okay, I cannot put my children safely in district public schools because they have been improved by the new government, you don't need to tell me. I will know that they have improved. Yeah. Yes. Nigerians are not ungrateful people. It's when you do not do the right thing, the Nigerians will complain, and they have a right to do so. Because if they don't complain, they will resort to self-help. I will see some people resorting to self-help. In view of Boko Haram, banditry, piracy in the South, and all sorts of high-profile criminality. So please, it's in the interest of all of us. So that when I come here every Wednesday, I will simply be discussing policy propositions, ideas, the merits and the demerits of some of those propositions. I'm not talking about existential issues. Existential. It should not be my desire to do that. And we're saying, Mr. President-elect, you have what it takes to do it. You can assemble the best brains in this country from where they are found and put them in government with the mandate to deliver on good governance in line with your manifesto. His manifesto is beautiful. Among the three, if you ask me, I'm even more impressed with his manifesto. But the problem is implementing it. His manifesto talks about a public sector presence in government, which is something I have always talked about. He talks about it in the manner that says, look, we need to have a stake alongside the private sector. But the challenge is, how are you going to reposition that public sector to be able to do that, which you have put down in your policy document? It will take that deliberate effort from you, based on an intention.
What we call political will.
To say, look, I want to do the right thing. I want to do it right. And I won't accept anything less than right things to be done. He will succeed. Nigerians will cooperate with you. Once they begin to see the effect of your good reforms, your good governance policies, in their life, they will all align. It's as simple as that.
All right, let's take a call or two quickly before we go for the news. And then we'll also touch, Dr. Majid, we'll get your opinion about the National Assembly sending independent candidacy bill to the president for assent. That would come a little bit later. Call us up on 0700 951 0000. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Majid.
Good afternoon, sir.
And good afternoon, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Welcome. Welcome to the show.
I want to appreciate Dr. Majid for listening to him. And I hope this government are listening. They will take advice given to them. We hope for better Nigeria. We hope for better Nigeria. Thank you so much and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Selassie. Hello.
Hello, my sister. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Dr. Majid, God bless you. I really enjoy your weekly tonic very well. But today on about my candidate. My name is Obedient to Moses Machuku.
Go ahead. Quickly, go ahead.
About what you speak about P2B today, meeting Tinubu, I say no to that. If P2B is taking this Tinubu anywhere, any day, the obedience will lay cost upon him and those who stole our mandate. Now, the next thing is that Obi is Labour Party. Obi made Labour Party to stand today. So between the two factional chairman or chairwaiting, they're not killing themselves for nothing. You didn't have this in that time. Obi can never make a work with that kind of thing.
All right.
So it's not a baby.
All right.
My name. Thank you.
Okay. Your opinion then. Let's hear another caller. Hello.
Hello, my name is Stanley.
Welcome, Stanley.
Yeah, I want to say I want to comment on the transmission of the results live and all that.
Okay, you've got 50 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary because it will not validate or invalidate what will happen at the end of the outcome of the election. Besides, the Defense Council, Operations Council, and the journalists will always tell Nigerians what happened at the end of the day. So there is no point. And who is going to put the bill if it was to be televised? If we were to go live, who pays for more than 80 days, live coverage of the tribunal and all of that? So these things need to be considered before, going live or deciding to go live or not. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's take a quick break for the news. Dorcas is already seated. We'll be back with more.